We need each other. In the church, it's important for us to remember that we need each other. And I'm not just talking about gender wars. I'm not just talking about differing political opinions. I'm talking about, in particular, generations. We need each other. The older generations, they need the younger generations. And the younger generations need the older generations. Because I believe that in the list of 1 Corinthians 12, of all the different gifts that we have been given, one of the things that Paul leaves out, if I can be so bold, is the gift of our age. And I believe that the Holy Spirit equips our bodies, our churches, with the exact amount of gifts that is needed in order for the kingdom to be advanced. And I believe that one of those gifts is our age. See, one of the things that's interesting when it comes to the church is a lot of churches, they're focusing on the youth or young. The target age for most church services is 18 to 30 or 35. And the idea is if we can get the young ones in there, if we can orient this around the young, then they can then become the generations that grow. And I understand it evangelistically, but here's what concerns me from a discipleship perspective. That we can emphasize so intensely one generation that we forget that we need each other. That all of the generations need the voices of every other piece of the generation in order for us to move forward wisely, in order for us to move forward effectively, in order for the kingdom to advance into lands and into places we've never dreamed before. We need each other. This really hit me hard as I was reading the end of the book of Deuteronomy. The end of the book of Deuteronomy is an interesting time because it's a transition of leadership. Moses is about to die. And Moses comes before this group of people that at the beginning of Exodus, he did not feel worthy to liberate. He did not feel worthy to set free. Moses comes to the tribes of Israel that have been set free from Pharaoh's grip through the actions and obedience of Moses. And in chapter 13, he pronounces a blessing over the tribes. Now, church tradition tells us that Moses is the one that wrote the first 5 books of the Old Testament. And there's a lot of theories about that I'm not going to go into. I just want to pretend for a minute that that is true. That Moses wrote these books. And here in chapter 33, it's almost like he is penning his last will and testament. He is writing a blessing to the tribes that he has helped free and liberate. And in chapter 33, verse 26, you can feel it starting to climax in his sermon, that the intensity and the intimacy is at a breaking point. Moses says in verse 26, "There was no one like the God of Jeshurun, who rides across the heavens to help you, and on the clouds in his majesty." He's looking at the tribes and he's saying, don't forget who you belong to. Verse 27, "The eternal God is your refuge, and underneath are the everlasting arms. He will drive out your enemies before you, saying, destroy them. So Israel will live in safety because of the Lord. Jacob will dwell secure in a land of grain and new wine, where the heavens drop dew. Blessed are you, Israel," verse 29. "Who is like you, a people saved by the Lord? He is your shield and helper and your glorious sword. Your enemies will cower before you, and you will tread on their heights." It's so important to hear the older generations put the present moment into perspective. And that's one of the things I wish our older generations would do more of. To embrace the incredible gift of the perspective that has been earned over a life lived in holiness. and patience and long-suffering, and to then be able to hand that wisdom to us as a gift, to hand that wisdom as a blessing. And here's one of the things I find interesting, though, that chapter 33 is not the end of the book of Deuteronomy. The book of Deuteronomy ends in chapter 34, and I'm not going to read, well, maybe I will. I'll read a lot of it, but listen to this. This is what's interesting. It says, "Then Moses climbed Mount Nebo from the plains of Moab to the top of Pisgah, across from Jericho. There the Lord showed him the whole land from Gilead to Dan, all of Naphtali, the territory of Ephraim and Manasseh, all the land of Judah as far as the Mediterranean Sea, the Negev, and the whole region from the valley of Jericho, the city of palms, as far as Zoar. And then the Lord said to him, this is the land I promised an oath to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the people that came before you, the generations that came before you, Moses. When I said, I will give it to your descendants. And I have let you see it with your eyes, what they could only see in a promise. But you will not cross over into it. Every generation plays a role. The generations of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob were the ones that pushed the promise forward into a time period of slavery of 400 years. That Moses then was asked to lead them in liberation towards the promised land, but that Moses and his generation was told, you will be able to see it, something different than Jacob and Isaac. But you will not enter it. That's for the generation of Joshua. And Moses, the servant of the Lord, died there in Moab, as the Lord had said. He buried him in Moab, in the valley opposite Beth Peor. But to this day, no one knows where his grave is. This is my question that came to my mind this morning as I was reading this. Who wrote that? If Moses was the author of Deuteronomy, who wrote that? And this is at the point where all of the theories of the authorship of the Pentateuch, the first 5 books of the Old Testament, cloud the beauty of this moment. Because I'm not asking that question to answer the theory of who I think was the author of Exodus. I'm asking the question because it gives us an insight into the generation, the role of the generation that came after Moses. For Moses hands them this gift, this blessing, the first 5 books of the Old Testament. And when he dies, someone else picks up the pen and honors the gift that Moses has given by writing to us the death of an incredible servant of God. Here's my challenge for you this week. Do you know the importance of your age? And do you offer it to others as a gift? And at the same time, do you recognize the gift that is embedded in the age of those around you? Here's what the end of Moses' life teaches me. We need each other. We need each other to move forward the promise. We need each other to reveal and to see the promised land. And we need each other in order to walk into the promised land. So please this week, wrestle with the gift that you can give through your age. And also find somebody of a different generation. And engage and encounter with them, knowing that their gift has been given to you in order for the kingdom to advance. And may we in that find a different level of unity that we even thought possible. And a different appreciation for the Spirit who has brought all this together for His purposes. I love you guys. Have a good week.